Hey, what's up, everybody? This is an open discussion with C3 Films. My name is Chris, and this is.
Cheryl.
And today we are talking about the Netflix movie, The Adam Project, the movie with Ryan Reynolds, Zoe Saldana, and Mark Ruffalo. So if you haven't seen it, we are going into spoiler territory, so you can go and check that out on Netflix, then come back and watch our show. But let's go ahead and jump right into this. This was one of the movies that you brought up to watch. I'd also said that maybe we should watch it, but I was mainly suggesting it because it was something that was new and that we could like talk about on the show and maybe have some fun with that. But when I saw like I didn't see a trailer for this movie. I saw like a scene. It was the scene from the cabin where Zoe Saldana shows up and they get into the car and drive off. I saw that scene and I was like, okay, this looks okay, but it kind of felt like it was going to be this kind of Spy Kids esque movie to me off of that one clip. So I didn't expect to actually enjoy the movie going into it, even if it ends up being a solid film. I didn't think that I would like it. And boy, did that movie punch me in the face and punch me in the gut, punch me in the throat, and say, "Yeah, you don't know anything, Chris. You absolutely did not realize what you were getting into and how great and how much fun you were going to have with this movie."
Yeah, I think I am starting to really like Ryan Reynolds. I didn't really before.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of his roles lately have been very similar to each other, but
Yeah,
I feel like he does a good job of picking what he wants to do right now.
yeah,
And you know me, I'm not a huge fan of time travel movies, but I feel like this one worked for me because even though it involved time travel, they did it in a linear fashion. So that in that sense, it made it work for me because we were really just following these two guys, Adam and Adam, his older self and his younger self, and I think that really worked for me in the sense of just being able to comprehend what's happening.
yeah. And like, as I've seen so many different time travel movies and time travel stories, like across comics and film and video games, that like I've basically come up with different. Like I've seen a bunch of different ways that movies try to make time travel work, and it's usually the alternate universe theory, or it's the theory that when you go back in time, everything that was supposed to happen is the thing that happens because you can actually change nothing. Or what this movie did, which I still like the way this did it, it's the idea that when you do something, it erases the previous timeline and the memories of everybody involved are rewritten. It actually changes the fabric of that timeline. There's not multiple timelines, there's only one, and going back in time actively changes it. And the way they illustrated that by having this moment where Ryan Reynolds and Zoe Saldana are talking about the woman who was the leader of their organization and saying, "Yeah, she always had this," and they say, "Wait, but did she?" And so like we didn't actively see her change the timeline like you would in another movie, um, but the characters themselves kind of have this question of if she did it because of the fact that their memories would have been erased and they would have the way that they lived would they think that that's it would have been the way that they always thought things were, but the only evidence they have that something probably was changed was the fact that a ship was recorded returning from a timeline but not from leaving, and that's actually impossible. So the only way that could happen is if the timeline was like changed, and so now all of a sudden there would be no log of it leaving because technically it never did for them in their timeline. So like this type of stuff, as far as like the setting, is very creative, and that's one of the first things that caught me off guard about what I liked about the movie. But the second thing, and this is very much a personal thing, so I understand that going in, my feelings on this movie might differ from other people, but the way Turning Red felt very reminiscent of your life and what you know for you. Ryan Reynolds and this kid and his relationship with his mother and the situation around their dad felt very reminiscent to what had happened with me and my mom growing up. And so I had a different appreciation for those scenes, like the scene where he is in the bar, like talking to his mom and just telling his mom, look, things will change, he'll get better, he'll realize how much he loves you, he'll come back, because boys always come back to their mothers. I was like, yo, this is so real, because when I was a teenager, I was not the biggest fan of my mom, but when I grew up and learned how to understand her better, all of a sudden I saw her in a completely new light, and now me and my mom are like best friends. And so that was, I love that moment he looks at that kid and says, hey, you have her to you have her to take care of you, she has nobody. So,
Yeah.
and that's just one amazing moment. Like, I'll talk more later, but the kid learns from the older self, and the older self gets to learn from the kid, and there's a balance in there, and that's what I really like about the movie.
Yeah, I agree. I really enjoyed a lot of the stuff that he had to say, and just thinking about like if you did have the chance to go back in time and tell yourself a thing or two. I feel like like your first instinct is like, oh, I'd probably just give myself advice about like how to make my life better, but um, in this sense, he was very critical of himself and like you need to be better because when I remember being you, I like it really sucked. Like I didn't like you, so and he was pretty blunt about it. He said it like several times, like I didn't like being you, so be better. And I think that it was a really interesting interaction, especially since like his younger self still felt like he wanted to hang around his older self, despite
Mm-hmm.
all like despite the way that he was being treated.
Right. Yeah, because he thought it was cool, and that was the thing that it's so surprising to me with this movie, because I did not expect the movie to have as emotion and heart as it did behind the movie. Like, there's so many great scenes of just love in this movie, whether it's the love between a son and his mom, the love between a son and their father, or the love between a man and his wife. Like, the relationship in that moment with Zoe Saldana and Ryan Reynolds' characters, where she has to tell him to go back in time to change the timeline, and his whole thing is he doesn't want to do it because he's afraid of a future where they never meet and that he never remembers her. And the fact is, she's like, hey, look, my life happened. It did happen, where we got to experience what we got to experience. And she chose to believe that they would get to experience it again. There would be an echo, as she says. And while, there's no guarantee that that would happen, just that idea of, I am worth sacrificing myself and the chance for us to be together so that we can honestly just save the future for everyone else. And I love the fact that he didn't want to do it because he came all this way only for her. He never even intended to try to save his father at first. He was only trying to save her. And she's like, no, that's not what this is about. And he was reluctant, and he didn't do it until she actually yelled at him. And that also felt very real to me.
Yeah, that part definitely gave me chills. I'm glad you brought it up because I was gonna bring it up, but I feel like this was some of her best acting I've ever seen. It was so convincing. Like I really felt like the desperation and the love, the sacrifice, and everything that she was saying to him, and just like how she was expressing it. It
Mm-hmm.
just felt so convincing, and touching. So I thought, yeah, more so that like her acting in this, I'd say everyone in the movie, like her performance was the best out of everyone in the movie. I just applaud,
Yeah,
standing O, even though I'm sitting.
yeah. It's and it's crazy because she's not even in the movie that long.
Yeah. She was like halfway, and I was like kind of wondering when she was gonna show up, but and the way she showed up was kind of badass too. She just comes
Hmm.
in guns
And
a blazing.
right, and everyone talks about hashtag relationship goals, But y'all need to see this movie where they have a fight scene together where they're like covering each other and comboing off of each other, and that right there, that's relationship goals.
Yeah, I just want mine to help out with the cleaning and the dishes. So that's all I ask. Maybe
Like, it's
some
much more simple.
laundry.
It's much more simple for me. That's what Cheryl said.
Lower your
Oh
standards.
man.
No, I'm just kidding.
also, also a little funny that three of the main characters were in Marvel movies.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, it was funny. I was like, oh, and Jennifer Garner too. You left her out. It was pretty
Oh,
cool
that's right. She was in Daredevil,
ensemble.
right? Thor.
Yeah.
That's that's nuts. That's Elektra, Gamora, Daredevil, and Hulk in the same movie.
Right. No, and what's his name? Deadpool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
No, it's that's incredible. There's
future
actually
for
a
that
moment.
kid.
You said what?
I said there's a future for that kid.
Yeah, yeah. There is. There's even a moment at the end of the movie where like the one of the car it's a really quick frame, but they have like one of the carton that they pull the baseball glove and stuff out of. It has a sticker of the Hulk and a sticker of the not Daredevil, excuse me, Deadpool logo on the case when they open it. And I was like, I see you, movie. I see what you did there, and I appreciate it. I appreciate it. It's on the nose, but I feel it. I like it.
I didn't catch that, but it's probably writing notes or something.
Yeah, it's literally like it's probably like a second of a shot. It's really quick. Like even trying to pause it, I could not pause it on the thing I wanted to see because I couldn't pause it in time. So yeah, it's a really quick shot, but it's there. And then yeah, continuing on like this because there's so much, but then we finally get to the point when they get to meet their father, and that is something that's like really well done too. You have this like rage with Ryan Reynolds' character and Mark Ruffalo. Like they actually slug it out when they first meet each other. They actually punch each other. Like you just punched your dad, and the dad like, and then you just punched your son. I'm like, whoa, what's happening? I thought there would be more reverence here. Like you're
Yeah.
seeing this man who's been dead and he's alive now, but
And I love how he did like this weird, like kind of fairy ballet punch. That was hilarious.
right?
Good
It's
stuff.
great. Yeah, and it's also great because like when they first see him, you can tell because they linger, and I was like, there is no way he sees the way they're looking at him or the way that they hug him, and he doesn't put it together that he's not there for them in the future because you don't hug somebody like that you see every day. So, and the fact that I love the fact that he like when he talks to them later, he's like, yeah, I figured it out. I know, and there's this feeling like maybe they'll change it and everything else like that, but they don't. And it's like this is what's supposed to happen. They don't save him. All they do is they try and be better when they go back to their own timelines. And it's so crazy to me because a lot of what they go through is based off of him dying. Him dying is what sends Ryan Reynolds' character as a kid spiraling into like this rage, and then this that which turns into this disdain for himself for how he treated his mother, and all this other stuff. But now that they've gotten to talk to him, and even though they don't remember it because of that echo, there's more of a peace that they have now. So it's kind of heartbreaking, but at the same time, I like the fact that they didn't just bring him back, but it was more of you guys got to have one last conversation with this man that you really love.
Yeah, I really feel like I don't know. I just really like what they did with that whole thing, especially with the dad being like, "Don't tell me. I like if it's gonna happen, it needs to happen." And he was very firm about that because they both kind of tried to tell him on
Yeah.
multiple occasions. Um, and I don't know. I don't know if I could do that. I would be like, "Tell me everything." Um,
I want to still
but
be around.
right, but I feel like there's like some sense that he felt needed to happen in order for his son to become who he becomes. So, um,
Right. That's another side of it, right? Like how much of who we are is based off of the tragedy that we've experienced and persevered through. And like it's a really powerful scene, but the scene where his dad grabs him and Ryan Reynolds, as the older version of Adam, and says, "It's okay. I love you. All this hate, all this stuff that you've been harboring, you can let it go." And that like is such a powerful scene to me because if you had all this anger and rage um, pushed towards somebody, directed towards somebody that is dead and cannot do anything about it. Like the kid, this is one moment when the kid teaches the older self where he says, "Hey, look, you're angry about dad. You remember this bad thing. You remember dad not coming home and whatever, whatever." And he's like, "Maybe it's because I'm a kid, but you know what I remember? I remember him buying that thing that you said that I was playing by myself. He bought it for me because he knew that I wanted it. I remember him doing things for me when he was tired." And it's like it shows you how when you're in the moment, you can appreciate these things that are happening, but when you get older and you start to rewrite your own memory with the things that you like didn't like, because it's easier to remember the things that hurt you because those they leave like a lasting impression. And that's what he focused on so much that he forgot all the things that his did that were actually positive and that showed that he loved his son. And so the kid being able to have that connection with the older self and say, "Hey, look, you're being dumb right now. This is what it is." And then for the father to then be able to have that connection with the older son and say, "Hey, look, I love you. Don't even worry about any of the other stuff. Don't doubt that. I love you. All this hurt, all this pain, let it go, son. Let it go." And then when Ryan Reynolds' character Adam just starts bawling, I'm like, yeah, this is a powerful scene, and this is some great acting right now.
yeah. And I really like how they wrapped everything up too, especially at the end where, everything comes together and all the people, meet in that one timeline. And the father ends up helping out older Adam with the car. And he's like, my car! When it's already busted. Um, but I really like how they didn't make it so any of the characters killed anyone, really.
Yeah.
And that
Well,
well, yeah, I mean, at least not the main bad guy. It was kind of,
right.
yeah. Anyway, they always do that. I mean, did they really die though?
I mean, technically, because that timeline got rewritten, no, they
No.
didn't die. Technically, only two people died, and one was natural, one was unnatural. Which, by
Yeah.
the way, can we talk about the fact that I actually felt bad for the past version of that woman because that was when she was like young and hopeful and good before she got older and jaded, and she's the one that had to take a bullet. I'm like, she's nice. This is the nice version of this other person. Like, maybe she can change. So it just I was like,
Yeah.
oh, that kind of sucks for her.
Yeah, and I thought she was gonna try to take the bullet, but then I was like, wait, but that wouldn't make sense because they established that the bullet will just keep going through past more than one person.
Mm-hmm.
Which I also thought was hilarious because he was like, "Get behind me," and then Adam was like, "Actually, it'll get everyone behind you too." And he was like, "Oh, okay, maybe just spread out then." Uh, fan out. But anyways, I thought that she was gonna actually like her younger self was gonna take a stand against herself, but it didn't really turn out that way. I thought that would have been a cool twist where like you know she could see how bad she's become that even her younger self doesn't want to be part of like
Yeah.
what she's become. But
Yeah.
that didn't quite happen.
Nope. Yeah, I felt bad for that character dying. Mainly because the young version, she was trying to do the right thing, but she was just trying to follow also the advice of her older self, who you could argue was more wise. But yeah, that's like you said, that's not. That's not how it went down. Um, the other thing that the movie did that I thought was a nice touch when we're talking about the ending is it recontextualized this one scene between young Adam and his mom, where in the beginning when Adam's mom is going through the taxes and sorting, and she's like, "This is how your dad did it" or whatever. It's the same line of dialogue, but when Adam responds with a system like that, like how wouldn't it be like hard or something? It's more sarcastic and it's meant to be hurtful. But then at the end of the movie, it's the exact same lines of dialogue that are being said that we heard earlier, but the tone is different and therefore the relationship feels different. And I was like, okay, I like that. That's also pretty cool. And then when he gets that's just urged to hug his mom, I was like, okay, this is really sweet. I like this.
So I kind of want to talk a little bit about what I didn't like. I did have a
Yeah, let's
couple
get
of
to it.
problems. So when his wife shows up and they like kind of defeat everybody, and then the I don't know why the plane flies away, and then they start running, and then they get into the car, and then they're like driving away, but then the plane is chasing the car. So it's like the plane like went away to just like wait a while and then be like, okay, now let's go follow the car. um,
Right.
so that didn't make sense to me. And
Nope.
then there's this whole part when they like get to her like hideout house and everything, and they're like safe, and she's like, um, she says something like, they'll never see me coming. And I was
Yep.
like, that doesn't make any sense at all, because they already saw you, they know that you're here. um, I like
Hmm.
they literally just ran away from everyone, so I don't know why they would not see her coming. And then I
Yeah.
thought like she would have more than just one booby trap and a gun. Like you would think with all that time and preparation, expecting for like an all out attack, that she would have to like hold it down and everything. I mean, she opens this the floorboards, and she has all these guns, and she takes one of them
One
out.
out.
Didn't even think to give anything to Adam before
Nope.
he left. So, um, yeah, that just didn't
Yeah.
seem very. I wish they did a little bit better with that action part. Like the whole idea and the concept of the story, the main story and everything, and even like the time thing, they worked out pretty well. But when it
Hmm.
came to the action and the combat, it fell a little short for me.
I can understand that. Like, it's funny because I thought it was interesting how she said, it was something like, I've had like 4 years to prepare my defenses. They'll never see me coming. I think that was her line that she said. And then I was like, when she goes outside and she has the one trap, I'm like, that feels very anticlimactic. I mean, that's one trap. Like, how many, like, you said 4 years of setting up your defenses. Like, I'm sure there's more than that, right?
I could have
Um,
done that in 5 minutes. No, I'm just kidding.
you know, like trip to the hardware store, set this trap up. All right, I'm done. I guess I'm waiting for the next 3 years. like, like that that doesn't ring as true to me. But you know, it is what it is. Yeah, I think that you're very right. Like, I even when I talk about, like, obviously we saw the movie a week ago, but like when I think about what I remember most from the movie, a lot of my emotions are tied towards the emotional scenes of the movie and not so much the action related themes. I thought it was interesting that he had kind of this staff that could become a sword or a bow staff depending on how he wanted to wield it. Um, and that's why I was laughing when you said, "Oh, well, they didn't really kill anybody." I'm like, actually, they kill everybody. They kill everybody because they even say this is what happens when you die outside your fixed point in time. You just evaporate. And I'm like, okay, well, that person had a family. That person had a family. So
Right, but
that's not.
they're not actual characters. They're just NPCs, so it doesn't count.
Oh, this is how Free Guy happened because of because I talk like that. They're just NPCs. Rude.
Yeah, but I mean, like the just in general, I think that the story worked so well that it's easy to overlook the action part and those little parts that didn't quite make. It's funny how they can make the concept of time make sense, but not the action.
Yeah, 100%. So
They needed
yeah,
two screenwriters with their two different specialties. Um,
exactly.
but
Different skill sets.
yeah, um, I did want to say I wanted to point out about the references because I really enjoyed all the sci-fi references that they had. There was a little there was a bunch of Star Wars. There was some I think there's some Close Encounters in there, Back to the Future stuff. And they named the dog Hawking, which I really loved.
Yes.
I thought it was hilarious when they both yelled at the dog at the same time in the same way.
Right? Hawking, zip it. Yes. No, that was a lot of fun. I liked the references too. When I heard the dog's name, it just made me chuckle.
Yeah.
So there's there's a couple
genius.
other things I feel like I'm not remembering, but yeah, like at the end of the day, I didn't expect to like the movie at all, honestly, and I was surprised to find out how much I enjoyed the movie. And for me, there's a lot of emotion that's behind why I enjoyed the movie. But I think even if I'm trying to be a little bit more objective and just look at the movie for what it is, I think that there's really good scenes in the movie. There's very well acted scenes in the movie, and maybe like what you said, the weakest part of the movie are some of the action scenes. But there's not that many, to tell you the truth. There's actually a lot of talking in this movie. There's a lot of scenes of just people like discussing things or like having conflicts with each other or things like that. But and it's those scenes that stand out more to me.
Yeah. I also feel like they made it a point to establish it as a for kids kind of thing, even though it's also for adults. And that's just because there was a lot of moments where they were going in an adult direction, but then Ryan Reynolds would cut it off to make it kid friendly. And they did that
Right.
quite a few times, which I thought was hilarious because I was like, okay, I get it. It's good for kids, but it's also good for us because we know it. We could fill in the blank, and in that sense, it was really funny and fun. It was just a fun movie in general.
Exactly, 100%. So, is there anything else you quickly wanted to get off your chest about the movie before we get out of here?
Nope, that's it for me.
Okay. So yeah, that was the Adam Project. So did you guys watch it? What did you think about it? Did you enjoy the acting in the movie? Did you enjoy the scenes the way I did? Did you find the action scenes a little lacking, like me and Cheryl both did? Whatever you thought about the movie, comment below. Let us know. And while you're down there, if you give us a like, share, and subscribe. Even if you don't, though, I have been Chris, and this has been
Cheryl, and we'll see you all next time.